All right, we are recording. So I want to welcome you to week 7. No, excuse me, week 5. I'm looking at
Yeah.
something else on the screen. Week 5. That's what happens when you're looking at too many different things on these screens.
Yeah.
And let me share our screen. We are just moving right along. And let's go to our homepage. All right. And hopefully, ladies, can you see our homepage there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So let's just recap a couple of things. Thank you so much for your patience to the entire group. So last week I had a meeting, and then I think the week before that I was just really pushing through with that little flu thing. So thank you so much for your patience, and I have caught all up. Catching up pretty much, I think I've caught up on the grading. So just make sure that you check over your grades. If you're missing anything, just let me know. But if you haven't seen it graded yet, I'm coming down the pike. We are in, I cannot believe how fast time is moving. We're in week 5, week
I
of
know.
9/11, week of 9/11. And we will talk about uh, religion and let me see, violence and religion. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But when I talk about 9/11, I can't help but to, we paused and we remembered on Monday those individuals who lost their lives, but so much around 9/11, 2001 was around religion. And
Yes.
so I won't get into a lot of that tonight. We'll get into that of the week of the 25th, I believe that is. And we will talk about, as we really, our last chapter, talk about how sometimes religion can go off the rails and become violent and where it shouldn't be. In this week, I just want to highlight a couple of things for you in terms of assignment. So, for this week, we have a video. You're going to watch the video on sacred text. And this particular sacred text that we're focusing on this week is Hindu sacred text. You're going to click on that YouTube video and you're going to watch it and you're going to answer these 3 questions. And I've engaged with a few of the students who have already who've already answered. Thank you so much. And also don't forget to respond to other classmates as well. But in your discussion post, make sure that you are engaging the text and you can engage the video. You're going to discuss the importance of Hebrew sacred texts to the Hindu sacred text to the overall Hindu religion. And then you're going to discuss what you learned about Hindu from this particular video. Especially if you don't practice it, there is just so many different things that we can learn from it because, this is not something that we know about every day. And point 3, does Hinduism have any similarities to a religion that you may follow? Or if you don't follow one, but maybe it has some similarities or maybe it does not. And you can share what those similarities are in your post. So I won't go any further down there because then you're going to see some of those wonderful answers from your um, from your classmates. Let me get back here. Okay, and then the second assignment. All right, the second assignment I want to pull your attention to is called an interview assignment. So I'm going to click on this real quick. Now, for your interview assignment, please let me know if you're having any questions. But this particular assignment really causes you to stretch. It really causes you to push out into your community, into your neighborhood or your place where you work, your family even. And you're going to pick someone. You are responsible for picking someone to interview. And many times, every time actually, when students do this assignment, it is just an overwhelming response of gratitude on both sides. And in years prior, students have done this and they've learned so much from the other person, and the other person who was interviewed is overjoyed that somebody even cared enough to ask them about their walk of faith. Remember, you're picking someone who does not follow the same religion that you follow. The whole point is to learn about someone else, to learn about another religion, to interview them. This is firsthand knowledge that we're getting from someone. Okay, so I'm not asking you to look it up from a book or a documentary. We're really sitting down and talking to this person. Here's another thing too. I've had this happen in the past. We're choosing a different religion. So let's say if you follow Christianity and you're Methodist, you're not going to go and interview a Baptist. It's still Christianity. It's still the same religion. And so I've had students say, well, they might do things different. Oh, sure they do, but it is the same umbrella. So you're still falling under the same umbrella. All right. All right. So there are about 5 or 6 questions there. I won't go through and read them all, but those are some questions that you can ask your person. There may be some other questions that come out during your interview. I tried not to make it too long. And then you're going to summarize what you found from that person. What did you learn from that person that you interviewed? What does that interview mean to you? And what did you take away? Did it change your opinion of that religion? And when I say change your opinion, many times sometimes we don't know, and we think like something's so dark or dismal or something, and then we find out it might not be that way. Also remember, this is an interview. We are learning. You're not doing the interview so that you can be converted to something. Let's just get information. This is what this class is about. We are learning, we are gathering information. You're not going and you're like, oh my goodness, they said this, and you're just totally turned off. No, this person is just sharing their point of view about their faith, and they're not trying to change who you are or what you believe. It just is, and you're going to report on whatever you found. Okay. All right. So let me just pause right there. Any questions on discussion 5 or your interview assignment? And I'm going to hit right here. Okay. All right. Everybody stay right there. I'm going to change my screen one more time. And let me know if you have any questions as we go along. And let me share my screen. We are going to go to, actually, let me do this. And let me pull it up first of all. Let's go to this week. Remember, we're in week of 9/11. And we're going to talk about sacred texts today. And actually, I want to start off with a very short video. Okay, and let me come right back to you. Sometimes it takes me a minute to set it up. All right, I'm going to start off with a very short video. Can you all see my video? It should say "World Awesome." And we're going to start off with this very short video. It's just 1 minute and 54. But this is going to open us up to religion, some religions and their holy books. Here we go.
Behaviors and practices. Religion is a cultural system of behaviors and practices, worldviews, sacred texts, holy places, ethics, and societal organization that relate humanity to what an anthropologist has called an order of existence. In this video we are showing the timeline of major religions of the world, their founder and their holy book.
All right, we're gonna pause it. Oh, let's pause it right there. So this gets us started with a great introduction to holy books and our sacred uh, writings and their sacred writings. And so let me pull up our presentation for today on sacred texts. Now, one of the things that you did, and thank you everybody, your presentations from I think it was last week or week before last when you all did your PowerPoints on your different religions. Now, some of you may have explored their sacred texts when you did your research. So some of those may have already been like things that you've already researched and you may have known about a particular book for that religion. Okay, here we go. Come back to you. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So it should say on your screen, sacred text. There we go. All right. So I'm in your book and I'm on page 54 where we talk about sacred writings and books. So for example, you all can open your microphones if you would like to, what religion do you follow and what is your sacred text? Anybody want to share?
My sacred religion is Christianity, and the book is the Holy Bible.
Holy Bible. Have two parts. You got the Old and New
Old and New
Testament, but
Testament, yes.
the whole point, what would you say to what is the whole point of the Holy Bible to Christianity? What does it do?
For me, it is a guide
It's a
for my
guide.
daily living. And
Good.
I remember years ago, our pastor used to say that it gave us golden nuggets for living. And if
Good.
you're having, problems, it may not be all the time that you can understand what it's saying, but at least you can get a gist of, something that may be, bothering you at the time, and you can always, consult the pastor or someone in authority, and will give you further, information and kind of settle your mind on that. But it's a continuous learning situation for me.
Good. Good. So the text I heard you say is a guidance, kind of to
Yes.
guide and to give principles. Sade, you want to share? And it's totally volunteer. If you want to, that's fine.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. My religion is pretty much the same.
Okay, I think you're breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me any better or no?
Okay, now that's better. Go ahead, try it again.
A lot of people say that the Bible is basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what it stands for. So it is an instructional guide to for spiritual upliftment for the people. It helps you in so many ways.
Awesome, awesome. So I heard a spiritual guide, I heard the word instruction, I heard the word nuggets. These are things to help us get through life. And so on page 54, actually, let me go through here. On page 54, every sacred writing or book embodies that same thing. Every sacred writing it is a guide to the people who follow that particular religion, right? So
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
go to it and get some type of strength, or they can go to it and figure out how do I raise my children, or they can go
yeah,
to figure out what do I do with my neighbor who's getting on my nerves. Yeah, so it serves as a guide for, and I think somebody said this. Was this you? Jean said daily living, just
yes, yes.
stuff, regular stuff. If you look on the screen, here are some examples of sacred texts, and I really shouldn't say all religions because these are some of the additional ones that we may have
Mhm.
to the chart that's on page 54.
Mhm.
But we talk about these. Torah is known to Judaism, the Bible, Christianity, Quran for Islam, Book of Mormon for Latter-day Saints, the Most Holy Book, that's for Baha'i faith, the Vedas or the Bhagavad Gita, and please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing, for Hinduism, the Tripitaka for Buddhism, Adi Grantha for Sikhism, and Lun Yu for Confucianism. So what I just want you to look at right here on this screen, even if we may have not read all of these sacred texts, and that's fine. But what does this tell us about religion? Just look at the screen, about religion and some type of sacred book. What does that tell us?
Well, it tells me that they really rely on their sacred texts for guidance. And it's something that they, I guess, look at on a regular basis. You know, you don't, I'm sure they don't put it on a shelf and let it collect dust. Most of them use it on a daily basis. And if it's not a daily basis, maybe, certainly when they go to their temple or their place of worship, they are definitely using that book quite a bit.
Good.
But I'm not here to judge anybody for sure about how often you read your sacred texts. That's between you and your God. But I feel that that's what most of these religions do. They have a sacred text that they're using it often.
Yes. So this tells us, if you look at this list here, this tells us that writing things down in some type of formal book is very important to religion. Right? So we have to have, if something is going to be passed down, or if something is going to be studied, if something is important and researched and has history or sayings or music or whatever it is, we have, well, somebody did compile it into a text, a sacred text. Okay. So that is a similarity among major religions, is that they have some type, if it's a well-formed religion, as these are here, it has some type of text. It has some type of book to show the organization, the history, the beliefs, the faith of that religion. Okay. All right. So we want to raise a couple of questions here. What makes a book holy? What makes a book holy? So we have, let's say, the Quran, and we talked about the Holy Bible, or the Torah, the Veda. So there are lots of books that these religions, or a holy book that the religion has. But what would we say, in your own definition, what would you say that would make it different? What makes the Torah different, or what makes the Quran different?
Well, I did want to point out that I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like that the Bible is the only one that has holy on the front cover of its book, and the rest of them are just sacred texts. Are there other texts that says like Holy Bhagavad Gita or?
You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna look up something here. I am.
Well, while you're looking that up,
Go
Um,
ahead. I'm looking it
my
up now for
definition
Quran.
of the word holy would it would depend on God, right? So in Christianity, we believe in the one true living God, the creator of all the universe, and he sets the standards for holiness. The way, not just the way we dress, the way we prepare certain foods, or how you kill animals to be prepared to be eaten. It's a certain way to do every single thing for it to be considered holy, and
Hmm.
that God's pretty much set the standard. Now, like I said, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty positive that the Bible is the only text with the word holy included in the title. And I think that's very significant for these
Well,
religions.
well, hold on.
Okay.
I did search while you were talking, and I do see Quran. It does say for the Quran, it says the Holy Quran.
Hmm.
Um, I'm on my
Okay.
phone.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so this is good. This is good. We're learning about titles, and we're
And I
learning
was going to say that the Quran, I know it says the Holy Quran, but the Quran also believes in the God of the Bible. But the
Yeah.
only true distinction between the two is almost as if they were split religion, or they were the same at one point and then they split, because the Quran says that Jesus is not the Son of God. He is just only, a prophet like all the other
the
prophets,
prophet, right?
while the Bible doesn't. But it would make sense for it to say the Holy Quran, I guess, if they believe in the God of the Bible, which sets the standard of holiness, from my perspective.
So right, and I see on mine. Well, I just did a search, so you could just do like a Google search. You might can't
Hmm.
see my phone, but I did a Google search for Quran,
Hmm.
and that's good. So look, I'm learning too. So yes, I do see. That's a very good observation in terms of like the title of the book. Holy, you see me looking at my bookshelf. Holy was included on it. Here are some
Hmm.
other questions. Now, look, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong answer here as we are pondering what we have in front of us. Which comes first, ladies? What would you say? A holy book or the religion that's associated with the holy book?
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
say, based on my religion, it would be the uh. Well, I mean, would you say religion is the practices of following the God that you believe in?
That faith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
that
face.
faith.
Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
Bible says that Abraham was a faithful man and he just followed God because there was no religion created at that time. There was no Christianity. And I guess Abraham's father, worshipped idols, and Abraham destroyed those idols. So Abraham just pretty much followed God's direction. So as long as God exists, then religion, I guess the following
What
of the Lord is what really matters, because I guess religion is technically man-made, because we have the documents in order to follow God, but whether or not we had these documents, we would be following God in some way, shape, or form if we
so
chose to.
think about it. Good, very good. So think about it like this. You brought up an example of Abraham in the Old Testament. Did Abraham and Noah and Isaac and all of those wonderful folks, did they have a Bible?
No, they didn't. That's why I said that, because they just followed God. So if we just talking about religion as in following the Lord and what He wants you to do, then definitely
Yeah,
religion was around first.
sure, sure.
Yeah, the
And then
practices.
as it formalized and as people grew in their knowledge and I don't know if this is the right word, intelligence, because everybody's smart, but um what's the word I want to use? Yeah, evolution, or as they
Yeah.
were
As it
moving,
evolved, as it
as it
evolved.
evolved,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
it grew,
It grew.
there was let's say, inclination to, all right, now let's write down what we believe, because more
Right.
people coming on this earth, and we got to tell them what we believe
Right.
and how we do this and how we do that. Good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I also think it's probably because, yeah, just like you said, it was so many more people. Because before it probably wasn't that many people, so you could just pass it down word of
Yeah.
mouth. But once we start
Yeah.
multiplying, it's like telephone
And
books
then
now.
very good. And
Mhm.
then ladies, think about this too. As with religions, all religions, okay, time moves on, and then we get more instruments. We get more sophisticated with things. And so think about, you know, oh my goodness, Old Testament time, and we're going thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. We don't have books, and we don't have pens, and we don't have probably no kind of real paper and stones. And oh my goodness, how are we going to write anything down? So,
Yeah.
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 Very good. All right, come
Mhm.
on. Good questions to
Yeah.
ponder. Here's another one I have for you, ladies. Are these and when we talk about word of God, it could be from any book that we can refer to. Are these the word of God, or are these words from humans, of men? What would you say? No wrong answers.
I think they were, it's the written word by men who have been inspired by God.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Um, because if you think about the disciples who spent all of their time with God,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus when he was on earth, and so they got their inspirations, from it, especially when you get to the New Testament and you have all of these different writers, from Matthew to
Right.
Revelation, that they were inspired by God because they spent so much time with him. And he just, taught them so much.
Mm-hmm.
And, it has evolved down through the ages. And that's how, like you said, like how we are learning. We are learning from the
Right.
word.
Yeah. Even
And
in 2023, how we doing time? Good. Even
yeah,
in 2023, we still have the Holy Bible, or the Holy Quran, the Torah, which is even
yeah.
older. Um, okay, very good, ladies. Now this next question is really a rhetorical question, and I want you to just hold it in your mind. We don't necessarily need to answer it out loud, but in the text, this was a great question that I just had to chew on. If other religions have other sacred texts, what makes us think our holy book is more sacred? That should be a than theirs. So it's kind of a rhetorical question that we'll all have different answers in our heads, right? But
Yes.
the author of our textbooks brings that up as we get into the study of religion. And surely individuals will hold their religion and their religious book as special and different. And like we said earlier, we use the word holy for their book, but can we go to somebody else's book and just like toss it across the
Oh,
oh, this is just junk, can we act like that?
no, that's being disrespectful to their religion and their
Yeah.
sacred text. I'm sure you would get a lot of people upset, and they probably want to excommunicate you, and why ask you why did you do that? Even if you didn't believe in their particular sacred text, uh, we
Right.
should all we should all respect each other. And
All respect.
yeah, I for myself, I cannot say that my thoughts and the way my faith is that I'm any better than anyone else
Mm-hmm.
in their faith. Because you look at the Muslims, the way they pray all the time. For myself, I do pray. I pray in the morning, when I get up,
Uh-huh.
and I try to pray in the midday. But of course, it's not that I don't have, God on my mind. I keep him on my mind all day long,
Mhm.
and I feel that he is, close to me, as a spirit. But they got me because,
Yeah.
they take time out to go to their temple, get on their knees, and they
Yeah.
pray, and they have to do it. They will excuse themselves. I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they're doing, because if you know them, and what kind of faith they, you know, experience, then you know what they're doing. So
Very
I
good.
would not judge. I would not be the one to judge anyone else. That's what I'm trying to say.
Good. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, ladies, look right here at the screen. What's in a sacred text? Somebody read that out for us.
I can read it. 1 second.
Okay.
Um, I if we're looking at the screen, I just see
Oh,
the sacred text,
Yeah, it just says that.
PowerPoint, but it's not any words.
oh no, what's going on? Okay, let me do this again. Do you see content of sacred text? You know
No,
what?
I don't.
No,
It's been
all
the
it
same
says
thing
is,
this whole time we've been looking at the
yeah,
screen. It just says
Oh
sacred text and it's purple.
no.
and it says introduction to the religious studies. That's all it says. Yeah.
Oh, and it hasn't changed. I do not like. Let me do it again, okay?
Uh,
Let me do this again. I'm gonna come back to you. I do not like Teams sometimes. Good evening, David. Because it seems like it doesn't. Good evening. Good evening. It seems like every time I move, it doesn't catch up. Okay, so I'm gonna share it again, okay?
okay.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like, okay, let me do it like this.
There you
And
go.
yeah. And well, this is a ugly way of looking at it. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Hold on, ladies. Yeah, I switched my screen. Hold on. Are you able to see my PowerPoint that says contents of sacred text now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's try it like this. Sorry about that. That happens sometimes. It seems like when I move the PowerPoint, it doesn't move along.
Mhm.
All right. I apologize. So there was some wonderful things on there. I'm going to need you to go back to this week and you can look over the PowerPoint on those previous slides. All right. Let's go to contents of the sacred text. What's in there?
Contents of sacred text, teaching of eternal truths, myths of the gods, stories of creation, inspirational and profound words of wisdom, theological or metaphysical foundations of faith, narrative, religious and cultural history, stories of the founders and heroes of a faith, early history of the religion, directives and foundations for a faith, legal and moral codes of conduct, foundations of ritual practice, and liturgical prayers and hymns.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So let's just pause right here. Within every sacred book, there are going to be some, if not all, of these points. For example, last week, I believe it was, last week we had a lesson about origins. You know, many times religions help us to figure out creation and how did we get here and different myths of creation and things like that. So that will be in there. History of how the religion got started, who were the key, what's the word? patriarchs, and I use the word patriarch because many times it was men anyway, that helped the religion to get started. Give me some other examples of what you may have found or what you gravitate towards in your sacred text that may be on this screen.
Well, certain prayers and hymns.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. And
Very good.
legal and moral codes of conduct. So,
Good.
and of course, teaching of eternal truths. That's major right there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, first point. Very good. Good. And for example, I'll just using mine, Christianity. Bullet point 3, words of wisdom. You find that a lot in Psalms. You find that especially in the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Nuggets of wisdom to just really help you think a different way about life. When you look at moral and legal codes, the book of Leviticus, it was a Old Testament book that just really laid down this how you're supposed to do this, and this is what you don't do. You do see some of those things in the book of Ephesians in the New Testament when you talk about household codes and how husbands or wives or whoever or children were supposed to interact with each other. So it is really interesting to see how in different books the same things are there.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's true.
But I also find it
Just a
interesting that it
different way
says
of saying it.
Okay, well, one at a time. I heard it's a different
sorry.
way. No problem. Who
Go
said
ahead,
it's a different?
Sade.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
I actually find it interesting that it says myths of the gods. Yeah, because some text does have certain, like the video that we watched last week.
Yeah.
It was a Babylonian story, but obviously it was a myth. And sometimes it's confusing because some religions have truth or actual accounts in their books, and then some have myths. So, it's just interesting to see what people go off of in their religion.
And pull in their book, right? And
Yeah.
put in their sacred text. Very good. And I think, Jean, what you were saying that, yeah, there were all of those different things were in different books, just maybe said a different way. I
Right.
think, okay.
Different interpretation. Yeah.
Different interpretations, yes. On page 57, one of the key things that we want to always highlight in whatever book that we're studying is authorship. What do you think we mean by the word authorship?
Mm-hmm.
Authorship.
The person who wrote the text.
Right. Who wrote the text. So, for example, with certain books, for the Christian Bible, you'll have multiple authors, not just one. But for the Quran, in Islam, the Quran would be associated with one individual, Muhammad.
Yes, Prophet Muhammad.
I want you to go to your screen and let's make sure this thing is working now. It should say open or close. You see that?
Yes, on the left hand
No, we
side.
still see context of sacred text. That's what I see.
Oh, okay. So it's not moving again. Let me do it again. Maybe it's not moving with me. Okay, so let's see if it moved to my next slide. The next slide, open or closed?
No.
No. I'm so, this is just, what is going on? So the thing is, it seems that when I move, it doesn't move with me. Okay. So you see the previous slide looks like. Okay,
Yes.
let me do this again. And this has happened before. I am not a fan of Microsoft Teams at all. Because it seems like every time I touch it, now I got it open twice. All right, let's do this again. All right, can you see me moving now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep it right here. I know it looks ugly. All right, open or closed? Open or closed. So what do we mean by open or closed book?
Hmm.
Oh, I see. You want someone to read it aloud?
Yes, you can. Mhm.
Oh.
Okay. Open or closed is revelation ongoing. Closed, Torah, Bible, Quran. Why would God have stopped talking to us? Or did we stop listening? Open, Baha'i, faith, Mormon. Why would there be new revelations of eternal truths?
All right, so here's some questions for us. When we
Hmm.
say the book is open or closed, so for example, we're in the closed part. Let me see if I can use my cursor. So in the closed section, Torah, the Bible, like Quran, these are examples of holy books that are closed, meaning they're not adding another chapter, they're not adding another book. Hey, got a new one and we got a new Bible out next week. No, it's just going to be the same Torah. It's going to be the same Bible. It's going to be the same Quran till the end of time. It's not going to be, what's the word? Added or nothing deleted from it. It just is, it is whatever is in there, it is what it is. And so some of the questions that we ponder, you don't necessarily have to answer these, but some of the questions that we ponder from people who study religion is, why do some have religions open, excuse me, some religions have an open book and some religions have a closed book. And if it's closed, what does that mean? And when we say, what does that mean? I want you to think of it as a scholar, somebody who's studying it. Like, think about like an alien who's coming to Earth and just studying your religion, don't know nothing about nothing. And they're wondering like, oh, it's closed, or did did your God stop talking, or did the people stop listening, or is this just what it is? Not necessarily, we don't have a particular answer to that. And then in open faith, excuse me, and in open book, the Baha'i faith is an example. The Mormon book is an example where in their religion, they are open to new, what's the word, interpretation, or a new revelation, or a new way of looking at something. So I want you to I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about it as not necessarily right or wrong or whatever, but as we're becoming academicians, as we're studying religions, keep that in the back of your mind that, oh, wow, some of them have a text that's going to be closed, not adding nothing to it. It is what it is. And some of them are going to be open, and they're going to um, perhaps change, maybe not drastically, but change over time. Uh, Let me talk to you real quick about authorship. I know I'm moving. Oh, it's 7:50. Okay. Um, I do want to talk to you about authors. When we talk about the book being either open or closed, I'm going to get to this in a minute. Um, you have certain authors of certain books. For example, in Christianity, there may be authors of books who are assigned to a book, but we don't really know that they wrote it or not. So when we sign, sometimes there is assigned authorship to, for example, Moses. He's assigned as an author to several books in the Old Testament, but as scholars have looked at certain books, they doubt that Moses may have written some of them, but maybe he instructed some writing to people. For example, there's the book that even talks about his birth. It's like, okay, he's writing this and he was born. So so perhaps he did write about his birth, or maybe others say, hey, we've got to get this in, and we've got to make sure that we talk about Moses. And many times books in the Old and New Testament, but more so in the Old Testament, were attributed to people who had names, who had bigger names. And sometimes those individuals were working with groups of people who would get the job done, who would do the writing. Okay. All right. So I do understand it is 7:52. I'm trying to move a little quickly here, and I've got to show you something that is so beautiful. If you look on the screen here, we're going to talk about the Torah, the Quran, and Vedas. And the Torah, and I want to talk to you about how it's read, okay? How it's read and how it's studied. So the Bible's read and studied in churches, but the Torah is chanted. It's chanted. And I'm going to show you a video in just a second. I want to make sure that it comes up. It is, when we say a chant, it's more so like a song. And in the Bible, we read from left to right. Do you know how the Torah is read?
From right to left.
Yes, right to left.
From right to left. Yes. And I believe the same is true for the Quran. If anybody studies Islam, you can let me know. I believe the same is true. Quran is also memorized and recited in their prayers. The Vedas are also chanted. So when we talk about a chant, think about it more so like a little, not a little song, but it has a melody to it. Let's put it like that. All right. Stay with me right there. I'm going to come back to you. I am going to share this beautiful Torah reading. Let me know when you see. Uh-oh. Sorry, y'all. All right. Let me know if you see my YouTube.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, we see it.
All right. It's getting scared. All right.
Wix is your platform to perform on.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ולא תלכו בחוקות הגוי, אשר אני משלח בפניכם, כי את כל אלה עשו בעקות בם, ואומר לכם, אתם תרשו את אדמתם, ואני אתננה לכם לרשת אותה, הארץ זבת חלב ודבש. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הבדלתי אתכם מן העמים, והבדלתם בין הבהמה.
So I'm going to take the audio down, but isn't that beautiful? I wanted you to hear the chanting. So chanting is very different from a biblical writing, a biblical reading of a scripture. So doesn't it sound so beautiful? And this is her bat mitzvah, and she is probably doing her public reading of the Jewish Torah with her parents. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yes. Yes. And also, did you notice the young lady? And I'm holding a pen, but this is not what she had. But the young lady, she's probably 13. Is it 12 or 13? But she had a beautiful, it is not a pen, but she had a beautiful instrument
Yes.
that helped her guide. Because if not, you would have to use your finger to um, go through the Hebrew words because the text is in Hebrew.
Mm.
So it's that would be in Hebrew. So she's not reading it like English or anything, but she's reading that in Hebrew. Let me see if this comes up. I'm gonna see if I can get the Rig Veda reading for you. Let's see. Let me know. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? It should be like a horizon.
Yes.
Awesome. This is a Rig Veda reading.
A hymn to Surya, the sun, from the Rig Veda. His bright rays bear him up aloft, the God who knows all that lives, Surya, that all may look upon him. The constellations pass away like thieves, together with their beams before the all-beholding sun. His herald rays are seen afar, refulgent o'er the world of men, like flames of fire that burn and blaze. Swift and all beautiful are you, O Surya, maker of the light, illumining all the radiant realm. You go to the host of gods, you come here to mankind. Here all light to be held, with the same eye of yours will you look upon the busy race of men. Traversing the sky and wide mid-air, you measure out with your beams our days, the sun seeing all things that have birth. 7 steeds harnessed to your car bear you, O you far-seeing one, God serve.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little example of that. That is a Rig Veda reading. So what's the difference between the Torah reading and the Rig Veda? What did you hear differently?
Well, he wasn't chanting.
That's right.
He was
That's
just
right.
reading his straight, you know.
That's
I
right.
guess you could, you know, for lack of a better word.
That was more of a reading.
Right.
Good. And it sounded a little bit more poetic like, and the chant, we saw an example of a chant with the Torah reading. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap up here. I got to show you this before we go. I know it's so much we want to squeeze into this time. As we were talking about, let me close some of these things out here. As we were talking about sacred texts, and we saw some similarities with certain things, you know, what's in a text, what's in the book, what's in the sacred books, and we saw some similarities. Let me actually get right here. And like I said, I want you all to go over this PowerPoint a little bit later because I know I won't be able to get to all of it. So when we talk about, remember when we use that word authorship, we mean who wrote it. And so there could be one person, there could be multiple people. It just all depends on that religion's sacred text. If you come right here to my middle column, when we talk about genre, what do we mean by genre? What's a genre? So think about it like this. So we have books that are on our bookshelf or in our library. We got nonfiction, we got fiction.
Well, it says in the book here, it's a form of style,
Mm-hmm.
form, or content of literature.
Correct.
As for an example, a letter, a story, or a law.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So when we talk about the word genre, in every sacred book, there are going to be different types of writings, different types of literature. So there may be narratives, there may be stories, there may be, like we said, more things dealing with law, things dealing with history, music. So, for example, in the Old Testament, the Book of Psalms is really it's poetry, but the original intent was that it was supposed to be set to music. So much of the Psalms were meant to be sung. Okay. Um, in New Testament, in the Christian Bible, you have letters or epistles that were written to groups of people.
Right.
And they're going to be read differently because it was like addressing somebody else's problem. Okay. Then lastly, and I know we're running short, I want you to look right there on that third column when we talk about interpretation. What do we mean by interpretation?
It's how each of us interpret what we're reading, what is going on in that particular service.
Good. Good. So in each sacred text can be interpreted by different methods. And what do I mean by different methods? Sometimes there are scriptures that are just going to have a literal interpretation. That's exactly what it meant. Like, thou shalt not kill. Well, that's what it meant. Don't kill people.
It's literal.
It's just literal. Don't go around killing people. It's not right. Don't do it. But there are other ways there are other passages that are a little bit more metaphorical in their writing, where a literal interpretation you may not be able to apply, where you have to dig in it. Maybe it's an allegory, maybe it's a story. And so look at the story and say, what does this story really mean? And maybe this story means blah, blah, blah. So there may not always be a literal interpretation. And then sometimes there's just a moral interpretation. What do we do in terms of good and bad? You do this, or you do that. So that is what sometimes hems people up with their study of a particular religion, where they're not exactly sure what it says. And then lastly here, and I'm going to let y'all go, the Quran is to be studied only in Arabic, and translations are not considered holy. Okay, so that as we're studying, that helps us to remember, what's the word, different sacred texts. There are different rules for different sacred texts. Can we say that? Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. All right. Let me come back to you. All right. Any questions? Any questions, David, Sade, or Jean?
I don't have any.
No, I don't have any questions.
All right.
I don't have any.
Okay. Thank you, David. All right, everyone. So please make sure that you finish chapter 5. We really just touched the surface, because there's so much in here that I still wasn't able to get, even when we talk about transmission. Remember, and I'm holding this up just an example of a book, right? But remember, most religions did not start off having like a book. There was oral there was oral history or there was oral transmission.
Mm.
So there was one generation literally had to talk it to another generation. And then that generation had to talk it to another one and another one and another one. So for, if not hundreds or thousands of years, depending on the religion, remember, most of it was oral transmission by mouth from one generation to the next. Then when things got more
Mhm.
advanced, should we say, some type of writing instrument was devised. Something could be written down or put in stone or papyrus or whatever. And then when things got a little, you see the progression, and then
Yeah.
things get a little bit better. Then we could put some books together. We could put some leaves together or something, you know, so that the people in that religion had something now that went from oral to paper,
Yeah.
and then from paper to something more solidified.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. What a wonderful time. Thank you so much, students. Thank you for joining me tonight. I will see you next. I'm looking at my calendar. What's next week? This year is just gone.
That
Next
21st.
week is the 21st. Right. The next week is the 21st. Okay. So I will see you then. All right. Take care.
Have a good rest of the week,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
To
Bye.
everybody, be safe. Take care.
Be safe.
You too.